Let's get it started. Here we go. Yes, boy. All right, come on in. The weather's fine, yeah. A little cool out, but it's not. A little late again. Technical difficulty. You got it. Here we go. Those of us that know intellectual violence, we do so to change pressure. Okay. Big ups right there. Thank you for doing it. All right. Here we go. Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM, the education advocacy station. Yes, indeed. I am your host and third eye optometrist, Patrice Gibbs. All right, and I'm going to get started here with a quote from my little cousin, more like a nephew to me, because his father and I were like brothers. And that's my cousin Jordan Davis. All right. Jordan is, oh man, brilliant young man, IT person, like his father. And well, check out what he has to say. Pro-Black isn't or shouldn't be about dictating what someone's personal interest should be. Putting the culture first is paramount, but bashing others for stepping outside of your ideal of Black norm seems to have heavy consequences we'll all suffer. Artists, goth, art Black, and blurs, for those of you that don't know what a blurred is, it's a Black nerd, were bullied, harassed in the decades past, and it's those same populations that we need now more than ever. Now it's cool to be a part of all the stuff we've been doing all our lives. Big ups, Jordan. And, big hopes for your success. Is I'm pretty sure he's an online animator and what have you. Like I said, my cousin nephew is brilliant young man. All right. Let's get with some history. I think I have to credit Brother Hameen for this. All right. This is a story about Abram Petrovich Hannibal. He was sold into Turkish slavery. Abram Petrovich Hannibal was bought as a Black servant to Tsar Peter I, known as Peter the Great. He became one of the royal favorites, a general-in-chief, and one of the best educated men in Russia in his era. His great-grandfather was Alexander Pushkin. Okay, for those of you that don't know, Alexander Pushkin, the famous Russian writer, who later glorified the deeds of his Black ancestor in his book, The Negro of Peter the Great. That was by Abraham Petrovich Hannibal. Now, Alexander Pushkin is credited with creating the Russian alphabet and language. Who's this? Okay, I don't know what's going on there. Okay. All right. Now, Hannibal was born on an unnamed date around 1696 in the Principality of Logan in present-day Cameroon. Abducted by a rival ethnic group, Hannibal was sold to Turkish slave traders who brought him to Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, in 1703. As an 8-year-old boy, he was brought to the court of Peter the Great, who adopted him immediately. Being the Tsar's godson, Hannibal assumed his name, Petrovich, and became his valet on Peter's various military campaigns and journeys. When the Tsar visited France in 1716, Hannibal was left behind in Paris to study engineering and mathematics at a military school. 2 years later, he joined the French army and fought in the war against Spain. In 1723, Hannibal returned to Russia. To Hannibal's misery, his protector, Peter the Great, died in 1725, leaving the young Black artillery lieutenant dependent upon the royal advisor, Prince Meshkova, who, due to his dislike of Hannibal, assigned him first to Siberia and later to the Chinese border, where his task was to measure the Great Wall. Hell of a task. Hannibal's fortunes changed in 1741 when Empress Elizabeth took the throne, and Hannibal was allowed to officially return from his exile, although in fact he had done so clandestinely in 1731. 5 years after his illegal return, he married his second wife, Christina Regina von Schlorberg, the daughter of a Swedish army captain who bore him 11 children. One of his sons, Osip, was the grandfather of the poet Alexander Pushkin. Although it had been Hannibal's wish to retire, Empress Elizabeth did not want to abandon him or his engineering skills. He was made military commander of the city of Reval, serving between 1743 and 1751, and by 1760 was promoted to the rank of full general. During his military career, he oversaw various projects, including part of the expansion of 73 miles Nagoda Canal near St. Petersburg, which linked the Neva and Shver rivers and Russian fortresses throughout the empire. Abram Petrovich Hannibal died on April 20th, 1781, as one of the leading military figures in Russia and probably the first outstanding engineer in Russian history. Okay, so it's no surprise that Russia was one of the few European or Eurasian nations not to participate in the partition of Africa. And it's no surprise that when people like the great Paul Robeson decided to expatriate to out of the United States, he went to Russia. People thought it was because Russia was communist and communism didn't participate in white supremacy and this that, which is not actually true. Communism is the dirty side of the dirty capitalists and what have you. Okay. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye.
Views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the host, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content.
Hey, my SA Princess, I see you there.
Are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist, soon to be joined by Nsoromma. Let me see, I got a little show music in the queue here. Give me a second. All right. Let's see here. Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's something how here in the States, the capitalists have our priorities so screwed up. It's sickening. It really is. Okay. What they have done, and this is the right wing, the conservatives, the so-called Republicans, And the Republican Party, of course, is no longer a party. It's the cult of Trump. It's the cult of bigotry. It's the cult of white supremacy. Okay? And don't get it mixed. Yeah, a lot of people get confused about what white supremacy is really all about. White supremacy, we're used to dealing with white supremacy on an individual basis and what have you. Someone wears now a MAGA hat or a Klansman's hood, or there's something so blatantly racist, that's easy to point that out. But white supremacy really is about the systemic, inherent, ingrained racism in America and throughout the world, really, anywhere that there are Europeans. With the end of the free school meal program, some students don't qualify for free or reduced price meals now. So they're skipping lunch. So kids are in school hungry. One student said, there's a point where you get used to being hungry. What the hell is that? There's a point where you get used to being hungry. So our students in school, their norm is to be malnutrition. Almost $1 trillion military budget, and somehow we don't have enough money to feed our goddamn children. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. You know what? You can't make that make sense. You cannot. The so-called richest country in the world, and stop that. America is the greatest country in the world. Like hell. Like hell. You know what? I know, and I've been thinking about it myself. A lot of people of African descent with what's his name? Tariq Nasheed calls foundational Black Americans, descendants of the prisoners of war and the enslaved, are actually leaving America. And what a lot of us don't understand, that have criticism for those that leave America, or warnings for those that leave America. You hear people, well, yeah, I'm gonna move to Tanzania. Well, Tanzania, there's a lot of violence there, and people get shot in the street. And, they shoot up schools. No, that's not Tanzania. Okay, that's Uvalde, where the whole damn police force has been suspended. I can't remember the city, but one southern town or city or whatever, county, I think it's a county, they have a sheriff. They gave their police force a mental health test. After the results from the test came back, the sheriff demanded that 47 of his police officers turn in their guns because they failed the mental health test. I think that number is small, because there are a lot of psychopath, mentally ill race soldiers on the police force. Yeah. You have to wonder what goes on with us. Why can we recognize the things that? Because we are uneducated. Okay, our education has never been about uplifting the people. At one time, education was not compulsory, was not required, was not mandatory until the industrial age. And the reason it became mandatory and you had to learn your ABCs and what have you is because during the industrial age, you had to be able to read and write, to read the instructions on how to run the machines. That's the only reason that public education became mandatory. It only became mandatory when it was beneficial for the capitalists. Okay? Now you got these idiots running around with their in their cult with Christian nationalists saying, well, we shouldn't read this and we shouldn't be taught this and this, that, and the other. Book banners, after all, insist that the entire community should see things their way and only their way. When a book is banned, a whole set of thoughts is locked behind the assertion that there is only one valid set of values, one valid set of beliefs, one valid perception of the world. It's really a scary idea, especially in a society which has been built on the ideals of free choice and free thought. That's a quote from Stephen King. I would definitely support not banning books being one of, the country's greatest writers, most famous writers. Yeah. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Coming up, Nsoromma joins us. Hey, what's up, brother? Chop. How you doing?
I was opening these.
Okay. Oh, I have some stuff for you. Glad that.
I think I had a boot go.
Yeah, on there. Lord mercy. I heard that. All right. We're going to get back to the show in a second, y'all. I know someone's getting us set up in here. Yeah. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Yes, indeed. In the house. My partner in consciousness, Nsoromma. What's up, brother?
All
right. How you doing?
Cool. Chop.
All right. I want to deal with some history, or some falsehood about history. All right.
Okay.
One of the things that has been going on with this opposition to critical race theory, okay, is the attempt to whitewash what slavery was actually all about.
Right.
Okay. There's so many. I'm going to give you 7 untruths about slavery that many of us believe because this is what they're teaching out here. Okay. The first one: do whites actually own slaves? Not true. It wasn't few. The truth: nearly a third of white families owned slaves or participated as overseers. More importantly, the entire society, norms, businesses, industries, etc., all built around slavery, meaning all benefited from it, not just a few families. All right. Lie number 2. Blacks willingly fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War and were happy to do so. Okay, people use this lie to argue that many enslaved people were happy and loyal. The truth is, the enslaved were often forced to cook and clean for Confederate soldiers. Whites didn't want slaves with guns. They weren't all soldiers at first, and it definitely wasn't always willing. Okay, especially not on the Confederate side, which was fighting to keep them enslaved. What the hell? We were never stupid. When they accepted on the battlefields from the North, they joined because they wanted freedom, right? And fighting in the war, shoot. Thank you. That would give them or their family freedom. Slave masters also signed their slaves in their past. Ain't that something? They were signed, they couldn't go fight. So what they would do is they would send their slaves. You know what? It makes me think about why Dizzy Gillespie, okay, was turned down by the draft board during World War II. All right. Dizzy went, you know, he was declared F4, which means he was not qualified to serve in the military, even though he was healthy and of age. They dismissed Dizzy Gillespie because of his mental capacity. Now, when I say that, I don't mean Dizzy Gillespie was anybody's dummy. This is one of the sharpest minds in the music world. Okay, and sharp mind, period. But here's what happened. When they went to sign up Dizzy, all right, they said, okay, what job do you want? He said, okay, well, what jobs are available? They said, well, cook and infantry. He said, okay, I know what a cook is, but what's an infantry? Oh, that's who does the fighting. Right. You know? He said, okay, that's who does. So y'all gonna give me a gun. Yeah, that's what you do as a soldier. You're gonna fight. You're gonna be in the infantry. Y'all gonna give me a gun and let me shoot at white people. He said, well, basically, yeah, to be the Germans, but yeah. He said, okay, yeah, sign me up for that. Yeah, I'll take that. You gonna give me a gun and let me shoot at white people? Yeah, sign me up for that. They said, oh, shoot, wait a minute. So they declared him F4. They didn't want him in the military. Mm-hmm.
So where did the Buffalo Soldiers come in?
The Buffalo Soldiers came in really after the Civil War, when African Americans were sent out west to fight the Native Americans. Now, back to this, lie number 3. House slaves had it much better than field slaves. Not so. And there's something that, you know, we had this thing, and it was really, how can I say, something that was popularized by Malcolm X, and there was a lot of truth when he said about the difference between a house slave and a field slave. Right. But they didn't have it much better. Both faced hardships. Most of the house slaves were women and children who faced constant brutality, including frequent rape from mistresses and masters. Now, notice I said mistresses as well. Yes. Yeah, because they would force male slaves into sexual relationships with them. And then when they got tired of that, he raped me. And next thing you know, you done put him in a vat of boiling oil or hung him and killed him because of that whorish husband.
That was late, yo.
Yeah. They were expected to be near and on call more than those in the field, meaning mistreatment was often more frequent and consistent. And this especially if the master made one of the slave women his choice. She would face the wrath of the mistress if the mistress knew her husband desired her and bore her children. Okay? They had to come up with a law to protect white women because so many of these mistresses murdered the children of the slave women that their husbands had impregnated.
Right, they was killers, man.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let that kid come struck in front of them, and they beat him to death, right?
Yep, that's what they would do.
Yeah,
The women and children.
that's terrible.
Yeah. And see, rape of house slaves was so common that many Black Americans today have an average of 16% white DNA. And this is no matter your complexion. All right.
And which one was that?
What do you mean?
What number? You said you had 5?
16%.
No, you said you had 7. How many?
That was part of number 3. Come up on number 4. Enslaved people were timid, docile, or loyal. That's a damn lie. We were nothing of the part. This is part of the happy, content slave myth. You know, watching too many movies and crap, like going with the wind.
I don't know nobody that like being banged upside the head.
You know, it's connected to stereotypes that Blacks thrive under tight control and with simple, basic physical tasks because of our lack of intelligence. Lack of intelligence? Are you kidding? Everything in American culture is touched by our intelligence, by our inventiveness.
We got natural intelligence.
Natural intelligence. The truth, and as for us being docile, the truth is we fought back consistently from the ship revolts, even before reaching the Americas, to thousands of rebellions over the century. We had to deal with slavery, but never, ever, ever accepted.
So when we stop fighting,
we have him a lot of us.
I know, but it seems
some
like
of us get complacent.
they just gave up. It seems like it's still in effect right now.
Yeah,
you know, and that's really sad.
That is because you got so many of us that are not looking to defeat white supremacy, but are looking for a comfortable niche within the system.
And we don't have to be in that system. We can start our own system, and if they burn it down this time, they have a problem.
You got that right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
so we scared to even start our own thing again, and that's what it has to be.
That's there's that fear.
That fear kick in, man.
Yeah, we got to let go of fear.
I'm telling you.
Global African supremacy, y'all. Whitewashed versions of history want us to believe the Civil War was about honorable men protecting their communities and Southern heritage. That's lie number 6. The Civil War wasn't about slavery. Yes, it was. That's a lie. In actuality, it was a conscious effort to extend Black people's bondage. Mississippi lawmakers even said this: our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. Okay. Lie number 5. Lincoln wanted us free. No, not actually. Abraham Lincoln didn't order troops south to free enslaved people. Whites love saying Lincoln freed the slaves. But yeah, Lincoln. But he was just trying to keep the U.S. from splitting in two. And see, Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation only set some enslaved folks free. It only freed the slaves that were in the Confederacy. See, and all slave states did not join the Confederacy, Delaware being one. So the slaves that were in Delaware were not free. Okay, and Lincoln made it clear. He stated many times that he considered Black people inferior. Now here's the big one, line number 7, the last one. Slavery was abolished in 1865 and was well for Black America. Once slavery became illegal, Southern and Northern breeding states found solace in the 13th Amendment. Okay, the 13th Amendment states that yes, slavery is abolished, except if you are in prison for a crime. Except there, so it is an exception.
If you're a prisoner.
Right.
Except if you're a prisoner. And they making all the Black people prisoners. Cops go up, pull up on them, say, oh, what's your name?
Yeah.
I don't got to give you my name. I don't have to respond. I plead the 5th. What? Take this gunshot. Take this knee on the neck. Take this choke. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, that's the problem. That's the problem, because they make slaves of people who they feel like just pulling up on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we said, the law permitted slavery and involuntary servitude as a punishment for crime. And blacks are arrested indiscriminately for things such as basically being poor. All right? They will pull up on you and lock you up on, and check this out. They will lock you up for resisting arrest when you wasn't even under arrest. So what was the crime? Now you're in jail and your bail has to be paid. See, that's charging you, and then you can't pay the bail, so they keep you in jail.
They pull up on you and then trap you. That's what it's called.
That's what it's called.
You know, I have a question. You know how the laws came about that they go by and they try to enforce? You know where them laws come from?
Oh yeah. In the South, okay, is immediately after slavery. You were set free. The black man was set free. All right, and like Dr. King said, you were basically free to hunger and terror. Okay, so you were set free. So they instituted laws that made it illegal to be homeless. That made it illegal to be unemployed. Now you're free from the plantation with no money, no land, and nowhere to go, and it's against the law for you to be poor and unemployed. You're locked up and put back on the damn plantation. That's where that crap came from.
I was talking about the laws itself that they go by. When they pull up on you and they say, you have violated this particular law.
Well, they have to state what particular law you have violated.
Right.
For instance, you have violated the vagrancy or loitering law.
Right, and that law come from what book? How did that law come about?
Oh, it's placed in state constitutions and what have you.
It's the Uniform Commercial Code.
Okay, that's a whole nother realm.
I know that United States of America law book is under them codes. That's what the United States does. They pay $260,000 a year to be part of that book.
Okay.
That's the codes they go by.
No, the codes they go by are state laws that are. See, if they went by those codes would supersede. No, no, it doesn't, because the United States is a sovereign corporation. Okay,
that's owned by the Vatican.
No, it's not owned by the Vatican. That's conspiracy theory, brother. That's conspiracy theory, brother. We're not going to do that. That's where, because if it was, okay, yes, the United States and the elite adhere to things in the Vatican and what have you. Okay, but it's a cultural thing more than anything. It's not a law where the last thing in the world that these racist idiots are going to do. You got to remember who are Catholics. All right. For instance, the Irish and what have you. Okay. When the Irish immigrated here, okay, they were treated as subhuman as well. So you had places where you know.
Right, you wasn't the only slaves, basically.
Well, yeah, we were the only ones that suffered chattel slavery. What the Irish lived under was called indentured servitude. And in indentured servitude, you were served as a slave for X number of years, or to pay back a debt, right? And then you were free. All right. Black people were in chattel slavery, and we were enslaved in perpetuity in generations. They didn't happen to the Irish, and that's one of the white supremacists' big arguments, is that black people weren't the only ones to slave. BS, we're the only ones that suffered the brutality of chattel slavery. And as bad as you think it was worse. It was a lot worse.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, that's indeed. It was a lot worse. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Urban Eye. We got to deal with something.
Yo, what's up, y'all? Yo, Meese, Ty, yo, King, what's good? I see you. Yeah, I got Meese, Gerard, Mina. Yo, what's good? Hey, yo, Steve, I see you. Yo, keep tuning in. You know I got 17 jobs. I'm always late. I'm sorry. Hey, yo. Joe, step your chess game up. Yeah, I play chess too. Whoever want to get down, I do that a little bit, because Just a little bit.
Yeah, me too. Just a little bit.
Hey, yo, Keith, what's good? What you up to? North side for life.
WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm Patrice Gibbs.
Nsoromma in the building.
Yeah. You know what, Nsoromma?
What, bro?
A broken clock.
A broken clock
Is right twice a day.
Oh, yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah, that's right. Your clock is stuck on 2:10. At 2:10 a.m. and p.m., your clock is right.
Yeah.
Jim Crow Joe did something right.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, indeed. President Biden pardoned thousands for simple possession of marijuana. The Biden administration took a dramatic step toward decriminalizing the drug and addressing the charging practices that disproportionately impact people of color. So President Joe Biden is pardoning thousands of Americans convicted. This is something else. Biden move also covers the thousands convicted of the crime in the District of Columbia. He is also calling on governors to issue similar pardons for those convicted of state marijuana offenses, which reflect the vast majority of marijuana possession cases. And now, of course, this upsets the race soldiers, okay? Because one of their big tools was either locking somebody up for having a small amount of marijuana, which many times they planned it on the person anyway.
Especially in the black community,
Yeah,
creating them slaves that they need for the prison system.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes.
And that's been in our lives ever since I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Even my older brothers, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My brothers before me
Yes,
was going through this.
Yeah.
And it's still going on right now. They should
Still
be
going
ashamed of their self.
That's what they should be.
Misused. That's what I can hear. What's up, misused?
I want to get to a clan. I asked a question this week. Why has hip-hop not cussed Kanye West out? This ignorant fool went to New York fashion show, whatever it is, Fashion Week or whatever it is, wearing a shirt that says White Lives Matter, holding the hand of notorious Negro big wench, Candace Owens. These black people run around with White Lives Matter t-shirts. Now, of course, Candace Owens, like I said, is a notorious Negro big wench who sold out years ago after she had sued with the backing of the NAACP, had sued the school for discrimination. Once she got her money, she was like, the hell with black people. Jumped up, said the most egregious thing. You know what this was he said?
No, I don't actually. Tell the world.
Okay. She said she does not want to be part of black culture. She wants to destroy it. This is a black woman.
And why she was going to want to destroy it? What was her, did she say a reason for that? Or she just woke up one day and said, yo, I want to destroy black culture?
Well, because one, like I said, she's a notorious sellout.
Yeah.
Two, that was very appealing to the white people that she was trying to impress. You know?
I see, man, right now in this day and time, it's like so much going on with the computer world and computer technology and how fast you can become instant star overnight from these social networks that's going on. That, you know, they get lost in this world that, you know, I'll do anything to be famous.
Yeah.
And when you do anything to be famous, that's literally what happens.
Yeah.
And you sell your soul, and you know, you turn your back on the people that cared about you and got you where you were.
Yeah.
And they don't see that because the money and the check is too big. I don't need the people that I seen. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they go after that big payday.
That's what they do.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I see when I see them all doing this stuff in the media, Kanye wearing a shirt like that. That's a publicity stunt to me.
And you know what? You're absolutely right.
I'm like, these are the all stunts. Remember that thing they was like, oh, you stunting, yo, what's stunting?
Yeah.
That's what they be doing to America, and America falls for the stunts. You know, and
but unfortunately,
talking about real issues that make a difference. Our kids not having, you know, boys clubs to go to, and I mean real issues in our world. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, indeed. I certainly do. But you know, the thing is, Kanye, you got to remember, this is the same cat that when Hurricane Katrina happened,
right?
He rightfully, correctly said the Bush administration does not give a damn about black people. He was absolutely right. This is the same cat who recorded the album College Dropout.
It's the same cat. I mean, you know, different opinions, different situations, different strategic moves, and advertisement.
Yeah.
You dealing with a black man in a white man's society. So if I don't cause controversy, if I don't play this controversy game with my people and with your people, I mean, we don't realize how much of a business America is. America is a big business. You understand? And when you dealing in, you celebrity, and you got more than 1 million people that you can snap your finger and they'll all listen to you. That's a little bit of power.
Yes, it is.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's what they try to attack with every black person. If you got 1 million and one followers, if you got 1 million and one followers, that's what it is. And they can, you tell them 1 million people, yo, I don't want you to support McDonald's.
Yeah. But the problem is,
what
Kanye West does is to the detriment of his own community, which is why he needs to be ostracized by the black people of hip hop.
Why you say that? He got a school for black kids.
He
go to. Do you know?
He does?
Yeah. He got a no publicity stunt. He got a school that's going on. Like, do a little bit of research on it.
I'm going to tell you like this.
Do a little bit of research on him.
A school built by Kanye West with his mindset and what have you, and what he has been saying in support of the Trump cult and what have you. I don't think I would put my kid in his goddamn school.
That was late. But I was saying, if you put, like right now, our kids are being indoctrinated in schools.
Yeah.
And they being taught to do this and to do that and to do it this way. And if you go into a school where you can let your imagination run free, you can draw what you want to draw and you can write what you want to write and not be judged for that and see the character and the genius in you from the beginning and take that and run with it. That's what Kanye was doing. That's his school teaching, and he's not doing it. He has professional people that's filling these.
I'm going to have to research that. I'm going to have to research that. So I find that.
Because he's doing a lot of yin and yangs. You know, they all go together. You know what I'm saying? He comes from Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, he know what it is, for real. I'm saying if I got $1 billion, you'll be straight, Pat.
I'm sure I would. I'm sure I would, brother. I'm sure I would.
Yeah.
That's word. Now, before we get to, because we coming around here, we got time though. You all heard of the Tuskegee Institute, okay?
Yeah.
But do you know about the Holmesburg prison in Pennsylvania?
Holmesburg?
Yeah, yeah, in Philadelphia, actually. Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney and the city have formally apologized for the terrible medical experiments conducted at Holmesburg Prison on primarily black inmates from 1951 to 1974. Many activists had come together and called on the city to apologize after the University of Pennsylvania had already done so last year. Kenney also wanted to highlight the role medical racism plays throughout the United States history, as well as the impact of trauma that's been a burden for many generations of black people to carry. You know, they allowed Dr. Albert Kligman to conduct experiments on over 300 black inmates at Holmesburg Prison.
They do that in a lot of prisons, man. That's Why they do that to us, man? Why?
Because they don't recognize our humanity. And let me tell you how deep that is, that they
recognize our humanity.
Don't.
I'm gonna put that on the shirt. Can I borrow that?
Yes, you can.
Oh man.
Yes,
That's
you know. Here's how deep that is. Here's how much they don't recognize. Do you know that from the late 1800s, right up in through the 50s, that in Europe they actually had exhibits in zoos of Black people living in their natural habitat? This is how they view us. This is how they even want some of us to view ourselves. Perhaps not happening. I had a couple of other things I got to get.
That's such a painful thing, man.
Yeah, yes it is. Yeah, it is.
And earlier you said something that I ain't really catch. You said African global supremacy.
Global African supremacy.
So you just want to switch spots with white supremacists?
No.
Oh well,
no.
That sounds like what you was talking about.
Okay.
That sounds like you want to switch places and just take the whip and beat them to death type of thing. I don't know. I'm asking. That's okay. I know if I took it like that, a bunch of other people took it like that.
I'm sure they did.
So I want you to clear it up with me, so they can probably hear it too. So.
Why global African supremacy? You know that basically we have, as Black people, okay, have been charged with the custodian of the world.
Charged with the custodian of the world.
Yes.
What's that? To clean the world up? What you mean?
To conduct the things in the world in a way that it benefits everyone. Okay. Remember when Black men ruled, okay, the world was a hell of a lot better place. When Black men ruled, what we understood was balance and that everybody should have a chance to eat. Look, we ruled the world in such a way that we were at peace and in a position to advance society because we didn't have to worry about war, famine, and disease. This is when Black men ruled the world. And you can check the history on that because it's a historical fact. I didn't just make this up. It's a historical fact. We actually colonized the world long before the Europeans. Unfortunately, some of the people that we educated, we should not have educated. Because they took that education and turned it on its head, spun it.
What?
Yeah. Spun it.
Spun it?
Spun it. And turned it against the people of the world. Such as the British.
That's what they do. They put the spin on you. They had the bamboos. Your boy done told you that.
Man, they will put the bamboos on.
Oh my God.
Yes, Lord. I tell you, it's really, really crazy. Let me tell you how
sad.
You know, like I mentioned earlier about banning the books. I know what it is. I got something else here for you before we get out of here. This right here. All right.
What you got?
What you got? Okay. The color of law.
The color of law?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. De facto segregation is an utter myth. Okay? Meaning that segregation is not a norm. It's an utter myth. There's no basis to it whatsoever. The racial segregation in every metropolitan area in this country was created explicit. Racially explicit government policy designed to create racial boundaries, designed to ensure that African Americans and whites could not live near one another, with policies that are so powerful that they still determine the racial landscape that we see in cities all over the country. Just like we had the myth of de facto segregation, we also think we know what public housing is. We don't. It's a place where poor people live, where lots of mothers with children, single parents with children, lots of young men without access to jobs and formal economy acting out, engaging in oppositional behavior that attracts attention of the police in a cycle of violence that we've seen in so many places. This is not what it started out to be. That's what we think of as public housing. But that's not what public housing began in this country. Public housing began in this country as a program for middle-class, working-class families. During the Depression, poor people were not permitted into public housing. Poor people were not permitted into public housing when it was first created. There was a housing shortage, and public housing was created for people who could afford to pay the full rent in housing, and they did in public housing, but for whom there was no housing available. Everywhere, the Public Works Administration and the other federal agencies that succeeded it created segregated public housing, separate projects for African Americans and whites in cities all across the country. Frequently segregating neighborhoods that had previously had not been segregated, but were actually integrated. During World War II, the actions of the government intensified to create segregation. They intensified because throughout the country, hundreds of workers or hundreds of thousands of workers flocked to centers of defense production, of war production, to take jobs that hadn't existed during the Depression, and the migration of workers into centers of defense production overwhelmed frequently the communities where they were working. So the federal government had to build housing for these workers if they wanted the ships to be produced. For African Americans, though, they built housing as temporary housing because the explicit goal of the housing was that African Americans after World War II would leave and go back to the South. So they built temporary housing for African Americans along the railroad track, and you want to find a black community go across the tracks and near shipyards. And they built more stable housing for white migrants in the white residential areas.
And with the train track separation, they did that with the highway separation. 95,
right?
Everything north 95 is white, and everything south of the 95 is black. That's terrible.
Yeah. Very soon after that, in the mid-1950s, a development occurred everywhere in the country, which was systematic, similar, and widespread. And that was that suddenly all white projects began to develop large numbers of vacancies. All black projects began to develop long waiting lists, and soon the situation became so untenable, so conspicuous, they couldn't have projects in the same city, some of which were virtually empty, and the other which had long waiting lists. The federal government and local housing agencies opened up all projects for African Americans, and then at the same time, industries left the cities and moved to the suburbs, and you couldn't get a job, and you were forced into poverty. This is what they did. The uncomfortable truth is, this is not about whites being smarter or blacks being lazier or whatever sort of off-base racial BS assumption.
I was ready.
Yeah, I heard that. One wants to make. It's about a foundation of racism to maintain the status quo. Right. It's about starting line set so far back by policies of white supremacy that you can't even see. And even if the economic discrimination faced by African Americans ended today, if they ended it right now, it would still take several hundred years for blacks to catch up to whites. Now, many people would say, oh, that just doesn't make sense. But just think about it. Look at the GI Bill. That's one policy. And look at its impact over 70 years. Now, multiply that by hundreds of policies over hundreds of years, and then it starts to add up. Okay, it's the open eye. Now, I know.
That's how I get ready to drop the song.
Yeah, not all white.
Okay, that's my motto. I don't think it's all
right.
Okay,
right. You know what? Not like you said, not all white people. Okay? They do many things for our benefit. Okay. For instance, they avoid us in public, so we feel more comfortable.
Okay. I knew it had to be something slick.
when we walk by, they lock their doors.
Oh yeah, they get a little subliminal stuff. Like they did on you with the elevator, clutch your pocket.
They do that to give us more room in the elevator. Okay. They don't hire us for jobs because they know those jobs are not good enough for us. Okay. And there's a better job out there somewhere. They don't want us in their schools because they know that education is trash. And they want better for us. Right. They want better for us. They don't want us in their neighborhoods because they don't want us in their schools being shot up by their children.
That's fair.
All right? All these things and many more. They're not microaggressions. It's done out of love.
That's how it is.
Out of love. You believe that?
Well, I don't want to be loved like that.
Yeah, that's word. That's I say. You believe that crap that you might believe?
What?
Yes, indeed. This is the Open Eye, WHGE 95.3 FM on Patrice Gibbs.
I'm Nsoromma.
And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority.
Who treat you as an option.
The Open Eye, WHGE 95.3 FM.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yo. Yo, fine. What's up? I ain't doing. I'm just doing it. Hey, yo, DJ Hot Fingers. I see you. I see you. Hey, Ty, I'm serious about that chess game. Whenever you're ready to do that thing, I ain't even gonna talk about it. Just let me know. Link up. I'll come to see you. Hey, yo, thank y'all for tuning in. You know, your boy always late, but I'm here. And we done. So, yo, hey, Pat.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned something because I did before I got here. I'm sorry I was a little late today. But hey, the Open Eye. Join us. All right.
Nsoromma streaming all platforms.
All right. Peace.
Hey.